Hey, good morning, YouTube. Happy Sunday, fun day, hopefully for everybody. Um, Want to talk to you this morning about counseling. Okay, so years ago when I was starting out in the military in the early '90s, I didn't get written counseling very often. Typically, if you got written counseling, it was negative, something you didn't want to face, and typically, physical calisthenic type punishment would usually accompany the counseling. So as I was coming up, I want to say about 6, 7 years in, I had the pleasure of meeting a Sergeant Rappa at the time. And I'd been to PLDC prior to meeting Sergeant Rappa, and where they had applied the counseling process to us and taught it to us in PLDC, Primary Leadership Development course. And so I was very interested in the topic because I certainly hadn't been taught this way in my first unit. And so Rappa turned me on to getting better organized and having some templates drafted and those types of things to knock out the initial and the quarterly counselings. Keep in mind, in a National Guard or Reserve status, where I think some of you can relate. We hit the drill weekend, and time just flies. And I'm not always the most organized person, and so I usually don't multitask very well, to be brutally honest. So I had to have my ducks in a row to really implement an effective counseling program, if you know what I mean. So I started doing so off of Rappa's advice, and drafted some initial counselings and so on and so forth. And I think by the time I started implementing it, I was a staff sergeant, so I was a squad leader. And I had about 8 members of my squad, 2 team leaders to apply this strategy to. New to me, right? New stuff. And I quickly found that everybody had a negative perception of counseling. They thought that the world's on fire, something bad is going to follow. But I tried doing the initials and the quarterlies, the positive type counseling. And what I learned in the long run is, don't look for immediate gratification. Don't look for immediate results to the concept and to what you're doing. The fruits of your labor, so to speak, are gonna come probably following your assignment as that soldier's leader down the road. So the counselings are not perfect because it involves humans, right? We're all human, and there's the human element to apply to it. So I would sit down, and these were chicken scratch counselings. We weren't big into typewriters and all the software and I'm dating myself saying typewriter, but the Microsoft was not a big thing yet and everything. So these were chicken scratch handwriting and my handwriting is not the best. I'm a right-handed writer, but I write like a lefty, if that makes any sense at all to you. And so I would start out with, this is initial counseling, what I expect of you, what do you expect of me, to try and establish that dialogue back and forth. I have not always been good at personal. I was very much taught coming up, and it was ingrained into me: mission first. Okay, professional first, personal last. As far as order of march, order of priorities. And so I haven't always been the most personable and best at relating to personal stories, personal life, as it may apply to a soldier's service. Okay, and it is applicable. It certainly is applicable and very valuable to understand everything that's going on in a soldier's life, not just drilling down on the professional side and establishing mission first. And we do have to take care of our soldiers and lead our soldiers for success of the mission, if that makes sense. Not to a fault, though, not to a fault. So anyway, we started out that way. You fill out page 1, the side 1 of the 4856, and then the side 2, where I made some mistakes in the beginning, is the plan of action. I would establish a plan of action without the soldier, in my preparation for the counseling, and that is a no-no. That plan of action needs to be, it can be structured. You can start with an outline of, what's your short-term goals, long-term goals, what's the plan of action for those, but you need to keep it pretty open. Keep pretty open-minded, open slate. I've even in my older years now, and as we've advanced in technology, I'll usually turn the computer to the soldier and let them fill out the plan of action after we've discussed the front side of the counseling and talked about a little bit about the plan of action. Or I'll have them type the plan of action, and then we'll talk about the plan of action, okay, and trying to implement it. Very important, very important. Again, the fruits of my labor, they often come later, okay, and I've made some mistakes too, and I've learned some mistakes either immediately or later as well. So it's not perfect, but it's very important, and don't be afraid of the confrontation, okay? You might get some confrontation. I had an AGR soldier once, and Sergeant First Class. A lot of times the AGR program, they end up writing their own evaluations. Well, that wasn't going to happen under Master Sergeant Brownback, all right? And I met some resistance with that. He's like, oh, no TPUs write my stuff, man. They put in those canned comments, and the eval's not going to be good and all this. And so here's the way I approach the AGR world, okay? Actually, this is the way I approach every evaluation. I write about 50 to 75% of that evaluation before the soldier sets eyes on it, okay? Maybe more. Depends on how well I know what the soldier did, all right? Now, if it's got some bad things, like in this case, this soldier actually busted height weight, all right? He admitted to it. He owned it, so that made it easier to address, but that had to go on the evaluation. So anything negative that's got to go on the evaluation, it's going there, okay? And I'm going to put it there. You got to have the counselings to support it. Don't just say you counseled them, because that's not going to fly if they ever make a complaint, and it's not the right thing to do. So we sat down together after I'd done about 50 to 75% of this eval, and I think he was pleasantly shocked, pleasantly surprised at the eval as an end result, and better understood the regulatory way of doing evaluations. So it's not a write your own community, folks. It shouldn't be a write your own community. So then the question is raised at times, well, how do I learn to write NCOERs if I don't write my own? You learn it by having them written for you. Okay, so I had a great experience one time. I was coming back from drill sergeant school. I'd been gone a lot from the unit, from the reserve unit. For drill sergeant school, preparation, you name it. My Sergeant First Class at the time called me on the phone out of the blue one day, said, hey, Brownback, I'm writing your evaluation, but I don't know all that you have done. So can you help me out? Okay, it was kind of like the way I write an evaluation. He was about 50% complete, something like that. And we had a conversation, and I have a ton of respect for the guy to this day, okay? Utmost respect because of how all that went down. It was not my best evaluation ever, okay? But I have a ton of respect for the way it went down. And I am not good at praising myself. Okay, so I suck at writing my own evaluations. That's another reason why you shouldn't have to write your own evaluations. All right, you go through time doing the work, putting in the work throughout the year, man. Somebody else needs to observe that. Somebody else needs to be paying attention, and that's your rating chain. Okay, whether you're reserve, guard, active duty, it doesn't matter. The regulation doesn't waver on that. Okay, so my method isn't absolutely regulatory either, okay? Reaching out to the subordinate for by the regulation, the evaluation is supposed to be kind of like a surprise, right? Like a pleasant surprise, or shouldn't be an unpleasant surprise, because you should have counseled them for anything negative that feeds into the evaluations. You should do the positive counselings as well, okay? Let's not get away from that. Can be complicated. All right. Some people don't like confrontation. Some of us don't know we resist confrontation until we're wrapped up and already too far into a confrontational moment. All right. So, I've had some feedback over the years since those times, since those early moments, being a staff sergeant, squad leader, being a platoon sergeant, being a drill sergeant, and the feedback has been favorable mostly. Okay, and I can refer back to some of those counselings as part of that favorable feedback to kind of give you the later latency of feedback to fruits of your labor concept and methodology. So soldiers pay attention, man. Soldiers pay attention oftentimes to things we don't think about, and you learn that later through their feedback. ATP 6-22 to check out the counseling process. That's the reference for you. I'm not going to go into long quotes and dialogue from regulation. Also check out the NCOER, the NCO evaluation process regulations as well. See, I believe that's AR 623-9, DAPAM 623-9. Again, it puts the onus on the rating chain for the support forms and the evaluations. For the support forms and the evaluations, okay? It's not a write your own program. It's not supposed to be a write your own program. Delicate topic, I get it. It certainly can be. It comes easier for some than others, just like many other things. What else? I had a thought. Counselings and evaluations should later help you write awards as well. So you go to write an award, PCS award, retirement award, just an award for an AT, for a circumstance. Those counselings and evaluations should help juggle your memory to feed into those awards as well. I've had that work for me at times. So the 638 is the award program form. What I find a lot with writing awards is we don't like writing. Okay, we just don't like the writing process that has to feed into the making up of an award. Is kind of where the struggle starts with getting awards approved. If you'll entertain that and think about that for a minute. So, what else? I think that's about it, folks, on counseling for me today. But I hope this has helped. Again, be prepared, okay? Be organized. Have your documents ready, especially if you got to give a negative counseling, all right? Because those are the hardest ones. Have your ducks in a row going into battle assembly weekend or drill weekend, okay? Trying to write that thing from scratch over the weekend, unless you're great at multitasking and everything, can be a real struggle. I used to hit the ground running, as I call it, a lot at the Reserve Center at the Armory when I was in the National Guard with my leader book with counseling statements started to be filled out and everything. To try to better prepare me and organize me for those moments, for those awkward moments, because some of them were awkward. Which reminds me, the most awkward counseling I had was near the end of my career recently. I had to counsel a female who failed height weight, okay? And I used a different approach than I've ever used in my career. I can be very direct, matter of fact, and to a fault, all right? So I'd really tried to do some research first to get to know how to approach the situation versus the way that I've always done it, okay? We had a sit down about it, open, candid conversation about where the soldier's at, what they feel led to the situation, and so on and so forth. And then the plan of action. We drew out not so much benchmarks, but giving the soldier tools and resources to help with, nutrition, fitness assistance versus, hey, just go do more PT. Okay, back in the day, I would have just said, go do more PT, which is stupid. All right. We got to get it nutritionally right too. So I wanted to share that real quick too as I thought about it. Difficult counseling. I think it went well, being more open and candid. I've retired since, so I don't know the fruits of my labor or the complete outcome of that counseling session. I don't think it was negative. I don't think it. I think it was purposeful, but I don't know that it's completely the right answer or successful, if that makes sense. So, all right, folks. Please, provide thoughts below in the comments, as always. Like and subscribe to my content if you would. And let me know what you think. Have a good day. Cool.